What's up guys, Mark here, and this video is going to be part 3 of my Hackintosh series. Now, it's been a while since I did part 2, and the main reason for that is every time I borrowed a camcorder off of a friend, and it recorded in AVI, and AVIs can't be imported into Final Cut. So I converted them to .mov files, put them into Final Cut, did all my editing, etc. And I couldn't get the video to upload to YouTube. It would get to a certain percent and then stop, and then I'd try again and it'd get a bit further and then stop, and then I'd try again and it wouldn't even get that far and stop, etc, etc. But I did keep trying to get the video up. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it again, but I'm going to film it with my iPhone, because hopefully that's going to be a format that YouTube will appreciate and I won't have to convert videos. So before we get started, first thing I'm going to do is just do a quick time machine backup. Now, in case you're not aware, there's my system specs: 12 gig of RAM, Intel Core i5. And my graphics card currently is a GTX 650 Ti 2GB. Obviously that's not the Mac Pro case, and it's not actually a Hackintosh. Well, it is a Hackintosh, but obviously that normally says Mac Pro and that normally says 2008. I'm going to do a video on how I did this probably later on today, so watch out for that one. Now, I have to take this card out. To do the installation. If I can get the installation to complete using this card, but then when I restart the system and you get the set up your Mac and putting in your user account information and all that, it takes so long, and every time you click something you get a spinning wheel for about 45 seconds and it takes forever. So it's actually quicker for me to take this card out, because I don't have HD 3000 or 4000 integrated graphics, which would make life so much easier, because I could just take the card out and use the integrated graphics. So what I have to do is take this graphics card out and put in my old NVIDIA card that works, install OS X, and then put this card back in. So before you get going, I can assume if you've been following this series, now I know, as I said earlier, that I've taken a while to get this up and recorded, and I do apologise, but I'm assuming if you followed this, you have already created your Unibeast USB drive, which I shall now plug in, or at least attempt to plug in, to my USB port. There you go, and that should now mount. Or not. There you go, install a USB. So there's my installer drive, and my time machine backup seems to have finished. So what I will now do is shut down the machine and put back in my old graphics card, so I can then run you through the installation process. Now before you do the installation process, what I recommend is on one of these partitions, no, not that one, this one maybe, yes, right, I have this folder called Intel Hackintosh Files. Now I can get rid of that because they don't do anything. Into the trash. Now what I recommend you do is any texts that you need for your installation. So I need these two, which stop the boot time taking forever. They're texts from Lion, and I have this one which makes my SATA drives appear to be internal. And Kext Wizard to install the Kext. Obviously I've got MultiBeast in there, and my DSDT, and in here is the Kext for my Wi-Fi card, which is up here as you can see. Now what I recommend you do, as I say, is put these files in a folder and put them on a partition that you're not going to be touching, so that once you've installed OS X, you've then got your files, and obviously I've obviously got iLife and Final Cut and such on here. So that's all you're going to need to do. And as I say, what I will do now is shut down the machine and whack out my iPhone, and we will get going. So I will see you guys in a minute. Alright guys, we are back. As you can see, I'm now recording with my iPhone. Now apologies in advance, for any shaky camera work, because I've got to hold this with my hand. So I've taken my old graphics card out, as I said, and I've taken my newer graphics card out, as I said, and put in my older one. And I've got my Unibeast drive plugged in. So I shall power on my machine. Now you need to boot from the Unibeast drive, so for me that is F12, I've got a gigabyte board. It could be F12, some are F8, some are F2 or delete or whatever. So press whatever is relevant for your board, so I'm just going to keep pressing F12 for a while. Right, and I get this, so if you have a gigabyte board you can either use USB FDD or USB HDD. It doesn't really make a difference, so I'm just going to click USB HDD there, and then you've got the Unibeast drive. Now obviously that's my existing installation, Hackintosh SSD, that's my Windows installation, but we are going to boot the installer. And for a few seconds you should see the familiar Apple logo. There you go. Now this does take longer than a normal boot time, because if you booted this verbose you would be able to see it loading every single text that is on the drive. So it can take a while, and it's going to want to pair to a mouse. So I'm going to turn on my magic mouse. There we go. Click the little arrow. So I'm English, so I'm going to obviously select English. If you're not English, then choose whatever is relevant to you. So you just want to click continue, agree to the license terms, which obviously I just did, and then you're going to go up to the top. If it's your first installation, you're going to go up to the top, go to Disk Utility, select your drive that you want to install OS 10 on, so this is my solid state here, and you want to click Partition, one partition, name it whatever you like. You need to make sure that it is set to Mac OS Extended Journaled. See if I can get it to focus, there we go. Mac OS Extended Journaled, come down into Options. You need to make sure this is set to GUID partition table and select OK. Now because I'm obviously I've got to hold the camera, rather than having to type out a name, I'm just going to go to my existing partition and erase it, because that's less trouble. So there we go, it's erased my SSD literally in like half a second. And so I'm going to select it there and click Install. Now it's worth mentioning that I didn't have to use any boot flags when I booted the USB drive. You may have to. This is all hardware dependent. So obviously I just hit enter, whereas you may have problems. Now if the Unibeast drive doesn't boot, then when you boot the Unibeast drive, put -V on the bootloader and hit enter, and that will load verbose boot. So then if you have any issues, you can see what the problem is, and then that makes finding a solution a lot easier. Now rather than you sitting here and watching a progress bar, what I will do is stop the recording, and I will be back when the installation is finished. What's up guys, we are back, and as you can see there it says install succeeded, the computer will restart and it's doing a countdown, so I will just let that run and my machine will reboot. Now when it reboots, again you need to hit that key to get into your boot menu, whether it be F12, F8, F2, delete, whatever. Because there's no bootloader installed on the drive that you just installed OS 10 from, so you have to use the bootloader that is on the Unibeast drive. So again I'm going to go USB hard drive, and this time I'm going to select Hackintosh SSD, which is my installation, and hit enter. And we'll let that boot up. And there you go, there's the Welcome to OS 10 screen. Now as I've got to hold the camera, what I'm going to do is I will stop the recording now and I will come back to you in a screen recording once I get to the desktop. So I'll see you in a bit. What's up guys, we've had a slight change of plan. I can't get ScreenFlow to record without installing the drivers from MultiBeast. So what I thought I'd do is install the drivers from MultiBeast recording like this, and then I will go back to the screen capture for as much as I can. So what you're going to need to do is go to wherever you put those Hackintosh files. So as you can see, there's the folder that I showed you earlier. So I'm going to do, I'm going to go into MultiBeast. Well, my mouse isn't, he's having problems. And I'm going to load MultiBeast. So go continue, continue, continue. Agree to the terms. Now, you need to put your DSDT, if you have one. If you have a UEFI motherboard, you don't need one. But I'm going to put my DSDT on the desktop, and then I'm going to select use a DSDT, because obviously I've got my own DSDT. Then drivers, I'm going to install the ALC 889, which is the codec for my motherboard. Obviously all of this is motherboard specific. I'm going to install that one for the SATA drives. Graphics doesn't matter. Network, I'm going to install links to Mac. Bootloaders and such, that doesn't matter. And that should be everything. So I'm going to click continue, click install, put in my extremely secure password. As this is an account I've made for this purpose. I'm going to transfer all my data once I've done this. So we'll just let MultiBeast work away, and it's finished. And then here we've got the installer for the Ethernet. So again, continue, 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 agree. I'll have the release version, continue, install, continue, and let that work away. Shouldn't take too long. Right, that's that finished. So what I will do is restart the machine. Now, because I haven't installed those other kexts that were in that folder, the boot does take longer than it will once I've installed those kexts. But what I'll do is I'll show you all the Kext Wizard stuff on a ScreenFlow recording once this process has finished. So as you can see there, it's just shut down. Now you can now remove your UniBeast USB drive. That's no longer needed, because once you install MultiBeast, it installs Chimera, or Chimera, however you want to say it, to your partition. So there you go, Hackintosh SSD. And this does, as I say, to take longer than it should, because I haven't got those kexts. There you go. Finally, we are on the desktop. Don't use. Right, now I will get the screen recording going. Alright guys, I'm back on screen recording, and what I thought I'd do now is run you through the steps that are relative to my hardware and my personal installation. So I'm going to go back to that Intel Hackintosh files folder, and I'm going to fire up Kext Wizard. Nope. And go to the installation tab here, go to browse, go back to that Intel Hackintosh files folder, and I'm going to install the Kext for my Wi-Fi card, the Kext for the SATA drives, and these two, Apple AHCI port and IO AHCI family, are the ones that fix my boot time. So I'm just going to select obviously target disk Hackintosh HD, and I'm going to hit install. Now I did this a minute ago and my microphone mucked up, so I've actually already done it about 30 seconds ago. So what you want to do is click install, put in your password and click OK and let that work away. Obviously I'm not going to do it because I just have. And what I will do now is restart the machine and show you it all working. Alright guys, I'm back after the restart. Those kexts I installed fixed the boot time, just in case you were wondering, so it's now about 10 seconds or so. As you can see up here, my Wi-Fi card is working. I did two